Welcome to the Safe Money Retirement Show with certified financial fiduciary Tim Wood.
This is all about helping people. That is why I am so passionate about this, because it's literally getting up every day and helping people plan for the rest of their lives. Make a plan, because I promise you're going to sleep better.
Tim is a retirement and income planning expert, best-selling author, and the founder of SafeMoneyRetirement.com. Tim focuses on wealth management, retirement income, tax and long-term care planning, and so much more.
Let's sit down. Let's make sure we have got a holistic plan. We're not just looking at one thing.
And now, the Safe Money Retirement Show with Tim Wood.
And we welcome you into another edition of the Safe Money Retirement Show. As always, we're here with the founder, president, and certified financial fiduciary with Safe Money Retirement, Mr. Tim Wood. My name's Kevin McAlpin, and Tim and I thank you so much for joining us each and every week on the program, and we hope you're having a wonderful day. Lots to get to on the show here today. Coming up in just a few moments, we're going to tell you how to avoid being a burden when it comes to leaving an inheritance to your heirs. Plus, if you're within 5 years of retirement, we're going to tell you how you can handle market volatility. And later on, if you're on Medicare, we're going to tell you how some big changes in 2026 can impact your finances. We'll get to that and a whole lot more. But first things first, we say hello to the man of the hour, the star of the show, and my good friend Tim Wood. And Tim, it is always a pleasure to be with you. Hope you're doing well today, sir.
I am doing well, K-Mac. Hope you're doing well as well. I mean, it's great. Late fall. Football's been great. I mean, it's a great time of year. My favorite time of year.
If you're a sports fan, it doesn't get a whole lot better than like that late October into November, right? World Series wrapped up a few weeks ago. You got the start of the NBA and the NHL. Football, yep. Pro and college is in full swing. Like, I don't know. I don't get a ton of free time because I've got a 10 and a 5-year-old that keep me occupied. But man, if I can find some chance, like my finger is just on the remote because there's been, like you said, so much good football, so many sports, so many things. Like if you have a short attention span, you're in good shape like I am because there's 8,000 games to choose from here these days.
100%. And I think I've told you, I've got the quad box going the whole time, drives my wife crazy. I'm watching 4 games at once. She can't, it's too much for her to follow, but I'm literally going back and forth and back and forth. Yeah, it drives her crazy, but I love it.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, it is a great time of year, man. The weather's cooling down. The leaves are falling. They've changed colors. It is absolutely beautiful outside. Thanksgiving now right around the corner. And I don't know about you, Tim, but the older I get, the more I have found myself really appreciating Thanksgiving, the holiday. You know, as a kid, it's Christmas. You're waiting for Santa to bring you all the great presents. But I don't know, man. The older I get, time with family, it becomes more and more precious, I think, the older we all get, doesn't it?
And being thankful just in general. I mean, for our health, for the fact that, you know, we can afford to have a radio that you're listening to this, or, you know, a cell phone that you're listening to this as a podcast right now, or whatever. I mean, just there's a lot worse situations all of us that are hearing this can be in than we are. So just a time to stop and be thankful. So yeah, that for me, that's of course, family for sure. But I mean, just the time to force you almost to stop and be thankful for what you got.
I know I am as well. Great family, great friends, health, knock on wood. And I know we appreciate all those out there who tune in to that radio show each and every week and join us here on the program. We got a lot of great info to get to. But Tim, when it comes to family, it leads me right into the first topic I wanted to discuss with you on the show today. Saw a recent report from USA Today, and it says that nearly 2/3 of Americans between 18 and 44 either have received or expect to receive an inheritance. And the average value of that inheritance is $320,000. It's a sizable chunk of change. Now, obviously, that is a blessing, but sometimes an inheritance can be a burden, as we hear from the decluttering influencer. It's called The Unstuffed Life. Take a listen.
Just because you inherited it doesn't mean you have to keep it. Your mom's china, your grandma's quilt, your uncle's coin collection. I mean, you didn't ask for any of it. And now you feel like a villain for even thinking about letting it go. But here's the truth. You can honor somebody's memory without turning your house into a museum. Keeping all of it doesn't mean you love them more. And letting some of it go doesn't mean you love them less.
All right, so Tim, some say it's a matter of knowing what to leave and what to avoid. So what kind of inheritances could cause problems for future generations if not planned for properly?
Well, there's a few things I'll touch on, and then I'll get into the financial part, because they're almost kind of two different directions to go. So the first thing I'll say, now these things are kind of financial too, but I'm saying more difference than just straight finances. things like she was just talking about, sentimental things. What do you want to happen to your stuff? I mean, if you've got a huge collection of, say, firearms, what do you want to happen to that when you're gone? Because if you don't specify, who knows what's going to happen to that? Collectibles. Yet my mom has actually made a whole list because she's got some sort of plates of something that's got great value because of something. And I don't know anything about it, but it's worth a whole lot to her, and it's actually worth a whole lot. So knowing what people have when they get it, that's important. Things that can cause issues that I've seen, vacation properties, timeshares, those are kind of the same. Figuring out, and now if you've only got one kid, it's a lot easier. But if you've got multiple children and they're trying to figure out, okay, well, we've got this vacation property and there's 3 of us, so I guess technically we each own 33.3%. Now, what are we going to do? And paying the taxes and all that stuff. So all of that is something that I tell families they should sit down, obviously, while someone is still there, and make a plan. I know I preach that all the time. Make a plan. Make a plan about this too. When I always say make a plan, it's not always just about your retirement accounts. You need to make a plan for everything, because if you don't, it's just a wish. If you don't make a plan, having a goal without making a plan is just a wish. So let's make sure that you've got actual plans for whatever the goals are. But let's get to the financial piece, since this is a financial show. The financial piece is that same article that you're talking about. I saw it, and it said they are averaging to get $320,000 in inheritance. Okay? Mm-hmm. Well, that's fantastic. That's a windfall. I mean, that's fantastic. But the thing is that all coming in money that now they have to pay taxes on? Because a lot of younger people, even though they would have 10 years, that they could let that money continue to grow and take out a little bit every single year, so they're not even going up in a tax bracket. Most younger people don't think that way. Most younger people say $320,000. Yeah, but that's going to bump you up to the 32% bracket. Who cares? $320,000. Let's go. We're taking that trip. We're buying that car. We're doing whatever. Let's go. So a lot of them do that, unfortunately. That's one of the biggest challenges I see for inheritances, is that they are not passed down the most tax efficient way. People just think, well, I'm going to pass money to them so they'll be happy. Well, yeah, they will. You're right. But there are ways, if you want to do it wisely and do it tax efficiently for them, there's things that we can do. And especially right now, we're at historically low tax rates. Taking care of things and getting those things in a tax efficient vehicle, and so it's ready to be passed on as tax efficiently as possible, because tax rates could potentially be doubled by the time you pass away and someone gets this inheritance. So what are you going to do if right now you could pay taxes on that and it's 22%, but in 10, 20 years, that same amount is 44%? Well, now you know what I'm saying? So It's a matter of, again, going back and making that plan. Let's make the plan for whatever's going to make the most sense when you are passing that inheritance. And going back to the other side, that's not just straight financial, let's make sure we're not setting up siblings to be at each other's throats with the inheritance. Right. Let's make sure there's a smart, a wise plan. Do we need to put in an estate plan? If we do, then let's get with an attorney and put in an estate plan. Let's make sure that everything is going to happen exactly like you want it to happen, and for what's going to be best for Johnny, Billy, and Susie once you're gone. Let's make sure that we've got a smart plan in place, so, once all that inheritance happens, things can go smoothly and everybody's happy.
So let me ask you this. It's not exactly the conversations you want to have at the Thanksgiving dinner table about what's going to happen after you're gone, but talk to the listeners about the importance of those conversations, those family conversations ahead of time. So, these inheritances feel more like a gift and not necessarily like a burden, as, again, you sort of heard from that soundbite there.
And that's one of the, I've said before, people have heard me say, and I've got some right here, I've got Kleenex in every single office. I've got 7 offices here in my office. Every single one of them has Kleenex in it, because I bring things like that up. It's things that we have to think about, people. You don't want to. I know you don't. If you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, listening to this, the last thing you want to think about is when you die. But you need to, because guess what? You're going to. I'm going to. Kevin's going to. It's the only thing other than taxes that we know for sure is going to happen, is we're going to pay taxes and we're going to die. So let's figure out those two things we know is going to happen. So let's make a wise plan for both of them. Whatever that plan is. Again, I hate to always keep saying it's an individual thing, but it really is such an individual thing, making sure that whatever is going to be best for your situation is what we can pull off.
They're not exactly the conversations you want to have, but folks, they're some of the most important ones you're going to have when it comes to putting a plan in place for future generations. You'd like to get that conversation started? Maybe you have no idea where to begin. Pick up the phone. Give Tim Wood and the team at Safe Money Retirement a call today. 800-913-SAFE. Again, it's 800-913-7233 or online anytime at safemoneyretirement.com.
It's now time for our Safe Money Story of the Week. Visit safemoneystories.com to view more.
For today's Safe Money Story of the Week, I kind of want to piggyback off of what we were just talking about that inheritance, and talk about a gentleman that came in. We're just going to call him Jim. He came in to see me. It's been probably a couple of years ago now, but he had a lot saved up. Unfortunately, his wife had passed a few years before, so he was a widower, and he had quite a bit saved up. It was over $2 million saved up. And he wanted to make sure, he had 3 kids, and he wanted each kid to get $250,000. So he basically had taken $750,000 out of his 2 point whatever million he had and earmarked it for them. But I said, that's great, Jim. But the problem is all of that is still pre-tax. So if they get that, they're not getting $250,000. I said, do you know what their tax bracket is? Well, they're all relatively successful. They're probably 24, 32, I don't know, something like that. Well, then you didn't just leave them $250,000. If they're in the 24% bracket, take away a quarter of that. If they're in the 32% bracket, take away almost a third. Oh, so what we wound up doing, which is much wiser, because people, you can buy life insurance for pennies on the dollar compared to just leaving someone an amount. So what I basically did for him, and we did this times 3, but let's just call one of his kids, let's just call Barry. Okay, so he wanted to leave Barry $250,000 in life insurance. Okay, well, we got a life insurance policy on Jim payable to Barry, and the benefit was $250,000. And we did it with a single premium, which was less than $250,000. So he could just put money in there, and then when the money gets paid out as a benefit, it's completely tax-free. So Barry is going to get the $250,000, exactly what he wanted. So he was able to put in less money and get it totally tax-free sent over. So that's kind of when we're talking about planning wisely for inheritance. That's why I wanted to bring up that story, because Jim was absolutely ecstatic by the time he left. He wanted to make sure all 3 of his kids got $250,000. Well, we did that, and we did that with way less than $750,000 because of the way that we did it. And they're going to get it completely tax-free. Well, now that opens up the rest of his, let's just call it $1.5 million. Okay, that's one of your main concerns. That's done. Now, what do you want to do with your $1.5 million? He already had plenty of income because of other things. So, we started looking at what kind of growth can we get? And then you can do all this fun stuff because you can pull money out of it. He left completely happy, completely relieved, knowing his kids were going to be taken care of and knowing they were going to be taken care of in a tax-efficient way, and that we did it wisely. Because if he had done it with the way he had, he would have actually had to have more like $300 or $350 for each kid to get them $250 after their tax. Instead, we went the other way, and for less than $250, we were able to get them $250. So it's just a matter, again, of making a plan, making a solid plan, but he left very happy, and we've actually done more business since then.
If you'd like to learn more, you'd like to read more Safe Money stories, let's get you a copy of Tim Wood's book. It's entitled Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success, and it's complimentary for our first 5 callers with absolutely no obligation to schedule that initial conversation with Tim. So keep this number handy, folks. You want to get a copy of the book? You want to sit down and talk about your future, your retirement? Keep this number handy. 800-913-SAFE. Again, it's 800-913-7233 or online anytime. SafeMoneyRetirement.com is the website. Again, it's SafeMoneyRetirement.com. All right, we'll squeeze in a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We got a whole lot more of the Safe Money Retirement Show with Tim Wood coming up right after this.
Hi, it's Glenn Beck. You've heard me talk about Tim Wood, certified financial fiduciary and owner of Safe Money Retirement for a while now. But what I haven't told you is that he's also a retirement income certified professional. Now, why should you care? Well, maybe you have pre-tax and after-tax retirement accounts, and you need to know how that's going to work. Or maybe you still don't have enough guaranteed lifetime income to cover your monthly bills. Or maybe your entire savings is still exposed to risk. Listen, I met Tim personally, and I can tell you that his team can help you. I want you to write this down, safemoneyretirement.com/Beck. Or call 800-913-SAFE to schedule a no-obligation, free 15-minute discovery call with Tim. You know I don't trust just anyone, so do your own homework on Tim Wood at safemoneyretirement.com/Beck and request a copy of his best-selling book. 800-913-SAFE, safemoneyretirement.com/Beck. Get started today.
And we continue with you on this week's edition of the Safe Money Retirement Show. As always, we're here with Tim Wood. He's the founder, president, and certified financial fiduciary with Safe Money Retirement. My name's Kevin McAlpin, and Tim and I thank you so much for joining us every single week here on the show, and we hope you're having a great, great day. Well, Tim, it feels like 2025, one of the big buzzwords we've heard in the media, in the press, has been stock market volatility. Boy, that feels like it's been all over the board. This has been one of the wildest years I can remember when it comes to the ups and down swings of the market. What about you?
It has been crazy. I mean, from February to, it's been, And whether you think it's going to be up or down 12 months from now literally depends on who you ask. You ask 50% of the quote-unquote experts, oh, it's going to keep going. It's great. Yes, the other 50%, man, we're right on the edge of a cliff. It's going to go down. Mm-hmm. I don't even know. Yeah, I'm glad I do what I do. I'll just say that.
No question. Lots of ups and downs with the market, a lot of mixed messaging in the media as well. And certainly we know that can rattle some nerves from time to time. So how can it affect someone who's within 5 years of retirement? Well, that was recently posed to Morningstar's Amy Arnott. And here's how she responded.
As you get closer to 5 years before retirement, that's what a lot of financial advisors will call the retirement danger zone for sequence of returns risk. And that's the issue where if you have a couple of down years in the market, there's less time for your portfolio to recover before you retire and start taking portfolio withdrawals. So if you are in that 5-year window before you plan to retire, that's why it's definitely a good idea to start de-risking your portfolio and make sure you have some exposure to safer assets like cash and bonds, especially short-term to intermediate-term bonds.
All right, so Tim, many folks believe it's also important to keep some stocks in the market to generate income. So for our listeners, how can you help them find that balance for someone, especially within that 3, 4, 5 year window when it comes to retirement?
Okay, I'll answer your question, but first I want to, for those that aren't on the video, I'm actually holding up a page in my book. It's called Sequence of Return Risk. There's a story in my book. Again, you can call us right now or go online. I'll send you a copy totally free. That's what happened to my dad. Exactly what she's talking about actually for him, it was within the first year, the market crashed while he was taking withdrawals. Yes, that is the retirement danger zone, and sequence of returns risk is all about, and that what I was just holding up shows the difference of if someone has down years in the first 3, 4, 5 years of their retirement, their chances of just taking, like, say, the 4% out that you're supposed to take and still having money left after 20 years is almost zero. It's way down. Whereas if those same setbacks happen in years like 10, 11, 12, 13, 15 down the road, you've got a much, much, much higher, like multiples higher chance of making it. So that's exactly what happened to my dad. What she's talking about is what happened to my dad. He lost over 75% legitimately of his retirement in the first 3 to 4 years of his retirement, and wound up going back to work for almost a decade and worked until his 70s. Didn't have a choice. So, yeah, it's a huge thing. That's why I've got a whole section in my book devoted to it. And you got to make sure that's where that transition comes. Y'all have always heard Kevin and I talk about that transition from acquisition. Our whole lives is acquire as much as we can. Let's grow, get as much as we can in this. Okay, that's great. Making the mind shift from that to distribution is a huge deal that some people never accomplish. To be honest, there's some people that die in their 90s and they're still trying to grow their money. What are you doing? What's the point? It's vitally important to making sure the money that you've got to have for retirement, you've got to make sure that's protected before you retire. Okay, well, how much do I definitely need? Well, that's why we do the fact finder. I don't know how much you need. It's not a dollar amount. It's an income amount, people. That's what you need to figure out. That's why the first thing I ask in the fact finder is, what are your expenses right now? Then we're going to talk about, how do you think that's going to change once you retire? Okay, well, a lot of people always thought, well, my expenses should go down 60% or to 60% of what they were. Unless you're planning on just sitting on the couch, and most people aren't, unless you've got medical issues and you're retiring for a medical issue, then yes, okay, your expenses may go down. But if not, man, that's when you're going to go play golf with your buddies on a Tuesday. That's when the wife's going to say, hey, let's run to the beach this weekend on a Thursday, and you're going to do it. That's when that trip you've always wanted to take. You got to make sure you're prepared, and you've got to make sure at the same time that you're getting the money out, that the market doesn't go down, because that's how you go in that retirement death spiral. See, that's what happened to my dad. If the market goes down between 2000 and 2004, look it up, people, the market went down, I'm going to use approximates, about 50%. Well, my dad retired in 2000. There you go. Oh. Now, if the market goes down 50%, math experts, how much does it have to go back up just to get back to where you were?
It's not 50%.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. If it goes down 30, you got to have 42. If it goes down more than 50, it's more than 100%. I mean, I've got clients that have been in the market that just now are getting back to where they were from 08 and 09, you know, and we're going on almost 20 years after that. Right. So that danger zone is something that a lot of financial planners don't talk about, but it is absolutely vitally important. And like I showed you, and for those on the video, that's why it's in the book. I've got a whole thing there that explains it, and it's got a huge graph that shows the real numbers of why it's so important to make sure when you retire that whatever you've got to have for retirement, for income, for whatever it is, for long-term care to pass on, for whatever it is that we determine that you need, we've got to make sure that's protected, because the market could go off a cliff tomorrow. We all hope it doesn't. And I'm not saying it's going to, but everything that goes up goes down. Everything that goes down goes up. The problem is the market math. If you could just go down 20% and then go back up 20% and be where you were, that wouldn't be that bad. It's not how the math works. Sit down and do the math. Get a pen, get a piece of paper, take 100,000, take off 30%. What does that get you? Well, that gets you to 70. Okay, well, let's add 30% back to 70 to get you back. Well, that doesn't. That only gets you to 91. Do the math. That's why it's so uber important when you are in retirement, and especially that you've got that plan for those first few years.
I know you joked about it on a previous show. You don't have a crystal ball, and none of us do. None of us know what's going to happen from day to day, week to week, or even year to year when it comes to the market. But for somebody tuning in, they're 3 or 4 or 5 years away from retirement. If they came to you and said, well, how much exposure to the market is too much? Again, I know everybody's situation is unique. How does that, process sort of work, determining where each individual is? I know we've talked about risk tolerance against risk score in previous shows as well, which has been certainly, it's eye-opening in and of itself. But how do you answer a question like that for somebody who is in that danger zone, if you will?
What I would say in that particular situation, and it's also something that you've heard me talk about on my website, people can take an assessment, and it's called the RISA, the Retirement Income Style Awareness. It's going to take between 5 and 10 minutes. People, it's totally free. You can just go to my website and click the RISA tab, or you can just go to Safe Money RISA, RISA, safemoneyrisa.com. It'll take you right there. It's going to take you 5 or 10 minutes. You're going to answer a series of questions, and then it's going to automatically email you, all for free, an 11-page report answering exactly what you just asked. How much should you have at risk based on what you said? What should you do in retirement based on how you answered the questions? And it helps us then create a plan. But what you said 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe up to 10 years before retirement, that is the perfect time to sit down and make a plan. Because we've got plans that have guaranteed roll-ups. So we could put you into a plan now. If you're at 60 and you're going to retire at 65, Perfect time. Let's put you into something. Let's get you 5 years, guaranteed roll up, so we know exactly where we're going to be in 5 years, exactly what that's going to pay you in income, because that's going to cover, along with the Social Security that we're going to turn on at 67, it's going to get you another bump, and then whatever. I'm just saying, obviously everybody's individual, but let's sit down and make a plan. Let's not just have a wish and hope it's going to come true. Let's sit down and make an actual plan, and we have definitely got to factor in that retirement danger zone. I wish to God someone had sat down and done that with my dad.
Yeah.
But back then I was just working in radio. I wasn't the head of a financial company. I was just a radio guy. So I didn't know. I mean, he was telling me and I'm like, well, I don't know. The stock's plummeting. I didn't know what to tell him. We wish we would have known about these things.
If you'd like to learn more, that website again is safemoneyreset.com. Again, it stands for Retirement Income Style Awareness. You want to take that test? You want to get that 11-page full report? You want to read through it? Well, there's no cost. There's no obligation. Again, safemoneyreset.com or safemoneyretirement.com. Or better yet, you want to sit down with Tim Wood. You want to have a conversation about putting that plan in place for your upcoming retirement. Maybe you're in that danger zone, as we discussed, 5 years away from retirement. Keep this number handy, folks. You can get on Tim's calendar right now, 800-913-SAFE. Again, it's 800-913-7233 or online at safemoneyretirement.com. That's safemoneyretirement.com. So, Tim, for our listeners who are using Medicare, we know the window for making changes to your plan is now open, and it closes on December the 7th. Now, you might see something in the mail labeled the ANOC. That stands for the Annual Notice of Change, and it tells you what the new costs will be for your Part C and Part D in 2026. Now, next year may bring some significant price hikes in premiums and deductibles. So, Tim, if that's the case, what would be some of the options for our listeners out there?
That is the time from October 15th to December 7th every year. That's the time that you can make changes to your Medicare Advantage plan, which they call Part C, and your drug plans, which they call Part D. What I suggest, now I don't do this anymore. I used to do Medicare also on top of the retirement things, but I just don't have time to keep up with all of that government. It's a lot. I don't even want to go down. It's just ridiculous. But there are people, and I've got people on my team that actually meet people here in my office that do the exact same thing that I do with retirement plans, they do with Medicare plans. So what I tell people is you don't necessarily have to do it every year, but to be honest, there's so many changes right now. If you haven't done this in the last few years, you absolutely should get with someone that is completely independent and can look at your current Medicare Advantage plan and see if there's something better. There may be something better with more benefits, with a better deductible, with all kinds of stuff. I mean, there's Medicare Advantage plans out there that have gym memberships, and they give you a certain amount of money per quarter to buy healthy food and vitamins, and there's all kinds of cool benefits with those. Make sure you're in the right plan. How do you do that? Get with someone that can look at everything. Same thing with a Medicare supplement and a Part D plan. Now, make sure that you're in the best one. Now, the only time you can change the Part D plan is during this window. The Part D plan, that's when you can make the change. So it's a good time to sit down with someone and basically just do an overall. Kind of overall with Medicare, what are you doing? What are your options? And make sure that you're in the best thing you might be. And if so, congratulations. If there's something better with a better company, with better coverage, whatever, but you want to make sure, here's the things you want to make sure of. Make sure any change you make, you've got to make sure your current doctors, your current prescriptions are in that drug plan, any hospital you might go to, any specialist you might go to. You got to get with someone like the people that I have people talk to, that's one of the things they look at. They don't just look at, this company's best. Well, if that company doesn't take your doctor, you're going to be awfully upset when it's time to go to the doctor and they say, I'm sorry, we don't take your insurance. Okay, well, we need to make sure that we're prepared for that. Now, if you're on a Medicare supplement and not a Medicare Advantage plan, that's not so much of an issue because Medicare supplements are taken anywhere that they take Medicare. So you're good there. But a lot of people are on Medicare Advantage plans, and you've got to go with the network that you're in. Mm-hmm. So if you're whatever company you're with, you've got to be in network. So again, sit down with someone, make sure you're in the right plan. This is the right time of year. That's going to end on December 7th. And that's it. I mean, this is your time of year to make a change. It's kind of like the plans I do. You get to change some of them once a year. That's it. It's once a year. This is your time for Medicare. Make sure you're sitting with anyone. And if you don't know who to talk to, just give our office a call. We'll be happy to refer you to someone.
800-913-SAFE. Again, it's 800-913-7233. Online anytime at safemoneyretirement.com. Again, it's safemoneyretirement.com. Well, Tim, time flies when we're having fun. I have certainly done that once again here this week. And before we do run out of time, my friend, the floor is once again all yours for the final word.
All right. So the big things that we talked about today, first of all, Medicare. Definitely this is the time of year. Make sure you sit down with someone. Make sure you're in the right thing. The second thing we talked about was the inheritances and making sure that the inheritances are set up properly. That's awfully important. But the big thing, the big thing that I want anybody listening to this to take away from this is sequence of returns risk. It's one of the biggest risks to your retirement. If you are not prepared for what could happen over the next 3 to 5 years, if you're retiring right now, if you're not prepared, you could be right back where my dad was. You could be right back to working for a decade or even longer. Depending on how bad it is, you could be right back to having to be one of those elderly people that we see handing people carts at certain stores. You don't want that. You don't want to be bagging groceries when you're in your 80s because you have to. Let's make sure you've got a plan, and let's make sure that that danger zone you are covered. Now, do you need to put everything in, make sure everything is protected in the danger zone? No. We need to make sure what you have to have for retirement is protected in the danger zone, so that way you can have your own safe money retirement.
The preceding information does not represent tax, legal, or investment advice. Obviously, by contacting us now, you are only taking the first step towards protecting your retirement. No information presented today should be acted upon without meeting with a qualified, licensed insurance professional. It is important that you read all insurance contract disclosures carefully before making a purchase decision. Interest and other guarantees in annuity contracts are subject to the claims-paying ability of the insurance carrier that issued the contract. The tax consequences of annuity income should be considered with the help of a licensed tax professional. Rates and returns mentioned on this program may vary based on state availability and are subject to change without notice.